Welcome everybody to another chat. This is actually a reshoot with Menace, also known as Menace Thinks. We're going to be discussing once again male mentorship in the manosphere, red pill sphere, however you want to put it. He has a very troubled past, but hopefully a very bright future. So say hello, Menace.
Sup, ladies and gents, how you doing?
All right, so as is customary with my shows, we're going to talk about how you got your start. Like, how did you come to the red pill or the manosphere or what have you?
So, I guess growing up as a teenager, I always noticed that women started to look down on men more, and it made me just raise a lot of questions back then. I also noticed that the same kind of women that used to make fun of men used to always go for like the taller, physically stronger, the more athletic kind of dude, and they could get away with things, but if I were to do something around one of these women, they'll get offended. Even if I spoke to them, they'll just get offended. And I even had one girl that used to shame me for being adopted. And the same girl spoke to me once about a teacher, and she said, "Oh, this is the power of women and femininity. You can say that a teacher touched you and get away with it without evidence." And I was 14 when that happened.
All right, so that's been quite a while. So this has been a problem for a long time.
Yes.
And
yeah.
When you say, and like, what kind of things did they say to you?
I used to get told that, "Oh, you're adopted. No one loves you. No one wants you," and things like that. In my early teenagehood. And already I was starting to question this whole feminism thing and why feminists in particular act this way towards men. And then some women would do it and some wouldn't.
Okay, and so I'm going to guess that they were talking, when you said they were shaming you, they were talking about your height and possibly your build.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant? Okay.
I used to get body shamed too. I used to get told, "Oh, you are a woman, not you look like a woman, you are a woman, and you are too short, or too short to date me, don't talk to me, or too short," things like that.
Okay, all right. So what was the defining moment that made you seek out the red pill?
There were two. The first moment was my parents' divorce when I was about 15, 16. And whenever each parent had an issue with us, they would tell us automatically to just go to the other parent's house. And there was a little bit of parental alienation going on, where mum would always tell us, "Oh, how bad your dad is, how bad your dad is." Dad would tell us, "Oh, how bad your mum is, how bad your mum is." And mum would even bring other dudes to the house, and they would end up sleeping with her when we were in the house.
Okay.
But the other moment that I would say got me into the red pill community and the manosphere was I was looking at Elliot Holt's videos years later on, about 2016, and I was trying to look for positive male mentorship. I came across Elliot Holt's videos. After I watched Elliot Holt's videos, a Paul Elam video came up. Then I found out the MGTOW acronym from there. And then after that, it was mainly like Coterie and Spetsnaz and Thinking Ape were the first three. Then later I found Sandman, MGTOW 101, and later Chris Cantu's videos.
Okay, but you've also mentioned before that another defining moment in your past was a breakup with a woman when you were in college and some nasty things she said about you.
Yes.
Tell
Yes.
the audience about that a little bit.
So this was around in 2013, was my first real serious girlfriend, and my family put a lot of pressure on me to get engaged with her. And I was, kind of head over heels, being I guess, the naive person that I was. But she basically said to my face within 2 to 3 months of the relationship that I was expendable, and she said that in front of her brother and sister. I should have broken up with her there and then, admittedly. I just didn't have the guts to do it. I did.
And you've also mentioned that she coincidentally happened to be like a Christian trad thought.
Yes, she was. She was one of those Baptists, one of those fundamentalist Baptist types.
I know what you're talking about. Trust me on that. They're good chameleons until they're not. They're to you that way. All right, so all this stuff happens to you, and you make it to the red pill, and then of course you mentioned some content creators.
Mm-hmm.
Who at this time in the early stages would you say was the most influential on you?
I would say at the start it was definitely Coterie, because he was so articulate with all of his words. It was like, to me, it was like a renaissance in like video format. And I'm like, this guy has the words for so many questions, so many ideas, so many things that I've thought about, but I never had the words to put it all together. Why is it that I see things so differently? Why is it that I'm here where I'm at now? Why is it that I was nearly engaged twice by 25, and after all of that effort, that it didn't really matter towards the end? And Coterie just laid it all out. Minimalism, he talked about materialism, he talked about technology, hypergamy, everything. It's just all connected together. And then from there, I just had to keep watching MGTOW video after MGTOW video after MGTOW video, sometimes almost 5 or 6 MGTOW videos a day at one stage.
Okay. And he's a MGTOW content creator. Coterie. I don't think I've seen anything he's put out. Now, as I've mentioned before, I'm not a MGTOW, but I do hang out with them, converse with them. I'm even a moderator and a server, one of the largest servers that's out there.
Yes.
So I understand, and I do watch the content. And I would say for me, Spetsnaz was very influential. It was very helpful in the emotional hurt from my beginnings of taking the red pill. There was a lot of hurt, but
well, I think he was the most humanistic towards it, because he could balance the emotional trauma with like the practical course of action into what to do in a situation like that. He really highlighted the issue with the trauma behind it, whereas the other MGTOW content creators didn't do that so much. Not back then, anyway.
All right. So moving ahead. So you started getting into MGTOW, and I mean, did you consume a lot of content? Like, I know when it came to the red pill for me, I read The Rational Male, and then like I was just hungry for more knowledge. I just couldn't get enough. Did you have a phase like that, or?
Oh, absolutely. I think I consumed the most content between 2016 to 2017. That's when I was working this very gynocentric job in aged care, looking after like older people as like a
Mm.
part of it, as like a kitchen hand, but I still had to help look after old people. And in between some of my work breaks and in between going to and from work, I would listen to Red Pill videos and seek more knowledge and just seek more talking points. And I would, sometimes up to 5, sometimes 6 videos a day, some days, almost back to back.
Cool. All right. So there was a point in your journey where you actually became a trans.
Correct.
So tell us what led up to that. Why did it happen? Give us some details about that whole experience.
So for me, my strategy with MGTOW, my strategy was to test MGTOW against my body dysphoria, I guess is what they termed it medically back then. With the trans thing, it was largely my height. I still have, even today, I still have issues with my height as a man. I'm like a 5'5", 5'6" dude. And I'm the height of women that I would want to date, but I don't like my actual height. And I don't know, I just don't like my body very much. And I was always told, like, even as a young kid, you're gay, you are a woman, not you look like a woman, you are a woman, you're pretty. I was always told pretty, gay, you are a woman. And then I guess for me, I just hated masculinity that much because I was told that women were always better than men, even from my mother. Women were always better than men. Women were the bedrock of civilization. That's what she used to tell me as young as a 5 or 6-year-old. And I just grew up disassociating from the masculine identity, I guess, even if it was subconscious.
So, and there's a lot of other guys that have been through something similar. They didn't go the trans route, but they never even went the red pill route. Those are the guys, a lot of them that you see as being the soy boys that you see, like the really weak, effeminate men. They didn't go trans, but they're on the left, and they're the soy boys that we all seen in the memes and stuff with the taking the picture with their mouth wide open and all that goofy stuff with their Nintendo Switches. And was it Carl the Cuck, the infamous one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember that meme? Some of those other guys, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's the route that they went, but they could very easily have been done the same thing that you did. Now, you had mentioned last time, let's try to pretend that the last one never happened. So you're talking to people who don't know your story. Let's move forward like that.
Yeah. We can.
I really wish the last one had recorded because that was a great interview. I was really happy with it. But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We got a question in the chat we'll resolve real quick. Oslo, he's been Jaguar Media, Black Pill Menace. He's gone by many names. We'll talk about that at the end of the stream where he'll have a chance to promote himself.
Yeah.
All right. So we've digressed enough. Now, you had mentioned in the last show that you had actually had a little bit of mentorship who advised you not to go the trans route, but you went anyways. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Correct. It was Seshu, if I'm to name names, it was actually Seshu that advised me to embrace my masculinity, to adopt stoicism. And admittedly, I was stubborn. I was very stubborn. I just chose not to for whatever reason. I guess I just chose not to. Because I already had some other agenda to be trans. But at the same time, Seshu did sow that seed for where I'm at today. And the other positive mentor that I had in that House of MGTOW Discord server, I would say was definitely bullets for teeth.
Okay, these guys are all MGTOW, where they've kind of dropped the label, as a lot of people have, because of the transformation or perhaps the invasion of incels, who I refer to as SpergTow.
Yeah. Well, there's also too, like, the deplatforming of certain like incel forums and that, which have influenced the manosphere and other platforms as well. I would say that's probably another part of it.
Well, yeah,
which has affected the quality of, like, the community and the label, from like the high intellectual stuff from Thinking Ape and Human Coterie to like what it is today.
Well, sure, and that's because the outsiders consider it all to be the same thing. They basically consider MGTOW to be incels, that they're interchangeable, which isn't true. Although I'll always point out that there was an incel invasion into MGTOW. It was around 2017.
Yes, it was. But
there is a difference. I've been around for quite a while, and I used to talk to the older guys who called themselves MGTOW, and a lot of them, they weren't incels. Obviously, they used to be married. They had children. They would talk about mature intellectual stuff, not just what happened to them, and stuff that maybe they would do over if they could do it over again, and things like that. But the sort of things that you discuss on your other channel, like the monetary problems or politics or anything of that sort. And it was a lot of that. And then I don't know what happened. More people perhaps discovered the MGTOW moniker, and they just invaded. And a lot of them are hanging around to this day. They're early 20s guys who probably never dated, or maybe had one short-term girlfriend or whatever, and they're just angry.
I would say too that MGTOW, from what I can look at from like a psychological perspective, is a lot of channels are very edgy now because of like the catharsis behind that red pill rage, the expression of it, and it has to be released somehow. And I get that. I do get that. But the other thing with these channels is that a lot of them confuse sovereignty with this neurotic behavior of my anger defines my red pill identity. Therefore, I must remain angry because this is my sovereignty. And I think a lot of content creators confuse the two concepts.
Yeah, I think the red pill rage is a very normal thing, but if you have been in red pill circles for a while,
yes,
and you're still in the red pill rage phase, you are messing up badly. Like there's something you are not doing.
Absolutely.
To move forward.
And that's why that Discord server, that House of MGTOW Discord server, kind of ate itself up the way it did, is that there were groups of men that were angry, that wanted to, I guess, destroy other people, and then they ended up destroying each other throughout the year that the server was together.
Okay. So we went on a short tangent there, and that's cool.
That's all good.
So how long would you say you were like in this trans phase?
I started transition like around, I would say, October. It was October 2017 is when I started. And then in January was when I was definitely on the hormones. And then the physical changes were beginning to take effect.
And how did that affect you?
It lightened my voice. It was changing my skin. It was making my skin like softer. My hair was beginning to thin out more like a woman's. I guess my demeanor or all that energy around me just seems more feminine. And yeah, a lot of MGTOWs obviously oppose that. They oppose my presence in the manosphere as a content creator.
Yes, there was a lot of chaos back then. How about your cognitive abilities? I think that's important to speak on.
I would say that transition definitely dumbs you down. It gives you the female survival instinct of, I need a stronger physical person to protect me because I could be overpowered at any time. And you start to develop this paranoia of, I could be taken advantage of physically at any time. Therefore, you become hypergamous. Like estrogen tablets, even in a male body, makes you hypergamous. It makes you seek resources, it makes you seek influence, it makes you more manipulative. It changes your baseline nature.
Now here's a question that we didn't ask the last time.
Yeah.
If you could do it all over again, or if you think, I got two questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, if you could go back and do it all over again, would you still take the same path? And second, I know you had some, like Seshu is a good man, and some of the other guys that you had mentioned that were sort of taking a mentor role for you back then. Would it have ever been possible that if you had enough mentorship that it would have prevented you from doing that, or do you feel like you would have been stubborn anyways and went through with it?
I still think I would have been stubborn anyways, because that was still an act of self-hatred because of how I was raised to view not just the masculine. It was an act of self-hatred because I just didn't like my genetics. I didn't like my body at all. I'm like, if I'm going to be made fun of for a man and be called a woman all the time, when I was younger, I think I would have still acted the same way.
Okay.
Or I would have been like a cross-dresser at maybe the worst, even if I didn't take the hormones.
Okay, so how about the second, or the original question? If you could go back and do it all over again, would you?
I probably would do it all the same, but I think I rushed understanding the talking points of the Red Pill community and MGTOW, even though I watched it for like a year and a half. And in hindsight, my first couple of channels like MGTOW Menace, Menace Media, they were flop channels. They weren't successful. They weren't what I wanted to say didn't come across the way I wanted it to. And I didn't actually have too many new talking points to add to that, to be honest. Not in any respectable manner. So I don't think it would have changed.
And that's kind of why I'm doing these sorts of series and interviewing the people that I'm interviewing. Because it's not stuff I feel like isn't covered. Like a lot of it is just regurgitated knowledge being put out there. So I want to get alternative viewpoints and experiences out there, and so that's why you're here.
Absolutely. So, and I think too that like the biggest issue with the manosphere right now, even though the manosphere tends not to take criticism too well, is that it does need to move towards the positive masculinity aspect and the self-improvement aspect of the manosphere. And I don't think that dilutes the message at all, because it makes it actionable, it makes it practical, and it gives men examples to draw from, so that way if they don't have fathers in their household, they can at least find fathers online. And that was another issue that was in the HOM that did come up, like with the Howard Dare incident. People were saying, Howard Dare is like a father to me. People said that. And that to me is like some real deep psychological trauma. And those are the kinds of men that we deal with.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And it's hard to believe that they're still out there, like that there are individuals who've been around this long who haven't moved forward. It's like they're running on a treadmill,
Yes.
It's disappointing, but you can't save everybody. So let's get into how you see it now. Like who would you say are your biggest influences currently?
I definitely always look up to Bullets and you, and I look up to Seshu and Redpool. And the reason why is because you guys are one of the few people in my life that have been level-headed, diplomatic about things, not trying to jump the gun whenever I bring up a talking point or a question, and not acting emotional on that, because that behavior wasn't modeled in my household. Even though I had a mum and a dad for most of my life, they just didn't have that capacity to be rational at all. But I'm like, how is it that you guys are rational and I meet you online, but in real life, my father and my mother are not as rational? And of course, Holly as well. Holly did help out, especially at a time when I was kind of ghosting the manosphere due to legal issues back in 2018. Holly actually brought me back into the manosphere. I was actually almost ready to exit it in 2018 and just go dark.
Do you feel like you're better off the way you are now?
Yes.
Staying? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You feel like you're in a better position. That's good. But how about, because the people you listed, these are just the people that are in your personal sphere, I guess you could say. And I am very appreciative that you consider me on the list, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
How about, do you pay any attention to anyone like in the manosphere at large, aside from our little corner of the manosphere? Do you think that, do you watch anybody and take influence from any of those people at all?
Yes. I watch human stuff. I will watch Thinking Ape. I think he calls himself Thinking Ape now. I watch Thinking Ape stuff. I watch Terrence Pop from time to time, Terrence Pop here and there, and just some of the other video content producers that are within our groups but are not necessarily in the chat. I will watch their videos from time to time, on and off. And Happy Humble Hermit's video, one of his videos, led me towards a Japanese warrior philosophy called Dokudo, which is like the path of aloneness. Dokudo.
Okay. So this question is coming up again. You should remember it from the last time.
Yeah.
If you could give a grade to the manosphere at large for the available male mentorship, positive mentorship, we're not talking about, certain individuals who, are promoting vandalism and, we joke about being mass shooters or something like that. But the ones that are positive, if you could give them a grade at this point in time, what would you give them from 1 being the worst to 10 being the best?
I would say overall maybe about a 5 or in other circles, like some circles, a 5, possibly a 6. And the reason why I say that is I think that these men are they themselves healing, and they themselves are trying to get through the system as well. But at the same time, there's just a lot that needs to be, I guess, either relearned or rediscovered with positive masculinity as a whole.
Yeah, I can get that, because there have been a lot of guys who try to pretend that they were someone to follow, and of course they've been caught as not being what they sold themselves as. And we're not just talking about my particular enemy, I guess you could call him, but there's been quite a few other guys who've been caught, saying that they're MGTOW and they're married, and or that they're trying to sell snake oil, or you name it. There's all kinds of things that have happened. But we'll move on to the next related question to what I previously asked you. How can they improve? What needs to happen for the Manosphere mentorship to get a better grade, in your opinion?
I think, I guess I'll bring up Sonny's server. I think what Sonny is doing is he will take male spaces and positive masculinity to the next step by having like a server where men can socialize around other men and just be other men without self-censorship. And I think what Sonny is doing in Discord is part of the next step of that. And then, of course, bringing that to realization, possibly in real life in the next step, or bringing self-actualization and making that the focus, be it in business or a martial art or a hobby. That should be what the focus should be on, not just only the trauma.
I mean, I agree. And also, current situation notwithstanding, I think that, it's good to know people in real life, not just on the internet.
Correct.
Have good friends in real life, even if they're blue pill, even if they don't really know what's going on. If you have, I have friends from the military, and most of them are your blue pill alpha types, or trad cons. And there's stuff that we agree on, like they oppose feminism, perhaps not for the same reason that I do.
Right.
But we have, that understanding, and we'll go out shooting and stuff like that. Keep our skills sharp. And just that sort of real male bonding is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That being said, I do enjoy, the online stuff, the Discords. I talk to all kinds of guys on Twitter and Discord and YouTube. I got some of you guys in here. Really enjoy talking to you. So let's see here. What else? I had another question, but I kind of lost it, admittedly. So how about, did you answer that? Like, how online, like what could they start doing that would improve? Did you answer that?
Online wise, I would say, see, I had this idea. Maybe the naming of it will sound silly. I had this idea called the quote unquote China doctrine. And that's basically like you build up an online presence, you incrementally build up like your brand or your ideas incrementally over time, over a longer period of time. And then you use that success to build up the success also of other people. And that's like, like how China came out of nowhere. that's the way men could be like that. Just build up their success over time and lead by example, I guess.
I think that's a little difficult because
It is.
for the most part, we as dudes, often most dudes see other men as potential competitors, and so therefore helping them, they see helping other men almost as like hurting themselves, if that makes sense.
Yes. And I think too, the system does heavily prey on our competitive instinct to try to keep the common man from being in check and to really stop us from uniting.
Oh, if you believe in the whole powers that be thing, that would definitely be something that those powers, if they existed, would really not like, is for men to continue to be masculine and to help each other out and to form a brotherhood.
Yeah.
I think they would really not like that.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. And I think if there are these powers that be out there, they have seen how much strength a group of men could have, largely after the Second World War. I'd say it was the Second World War was like, whoa, men, angry poor men, when they're like this, can unite like this. It was, historically speaking, I would say it was the Second World War was the real wake-up call to the powers that be.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've talked to a friend of mine about who's obsessed with that World War II stuff, and they pointed out a story where two men on opposite sides had shot each other down as pilots, but they worked together to survive. And that person asked, like, how does that happen? Well, men can do that when they're good at coming together for a purpose, and I think that we should remember this. And one would think that we should all be united against, common enemies of feminism and the legal system and stuff like that. But we see just so much infighting, and partially because there's so many guys that are in it just to make money, to be shills or what have you. They don't care. And there's certain people who get, the finger pointed at them for being shills, but that often comes for that particular person. I'm not going to name names, but that person gets a bad rap because you see the small things that this guy does to promote smaller channels, and to help men. It's very clear that this person, yes, they want to make money from their work, but they don't. It's not all about that. Like, they are actually helping men while doing this. I mean, this person has even retweeted, links to my streams or my videos, and they didn't have to. They could have just fucked off and never talked to me again, after they got what they wanted from me. But that didn't happen. And so that's what I think is funny, because individuals are basically saying this person is all about money and he doesn't care about the little guy and he's a shill, shit like that. And that's what pisses me off. And if the person was to watch this video, they'd know exactly who I'm talking about. But I'm not here to kiss anybody's ass or anything like that.
I hope he still prints his books, because I want to acquire some copies myself. I've been hunting down his books for quite a while now. Because I was planning originally to use his work to create, I guess, another framework to help men, at least in the manosphere, as one last hurrah.
I was actually thinking about doing the same thing, Menace. Because that person's work, the language that's used is, very intellectual. And I wanted to basically take that and add sort of what I've learned from my whole experience in this sphere. I make it very obvious. I pay attention to everybody. You know, I just had the purple pill guy on, like in theory, someone you know well.
Yep.
I take red pill concepts, and I even take black pill concepts. And I, you know, like Jeet Kune Do, I take what I think is good and effective, and I throw out the garbage. And I've just been collecting information, and I kind of want to put it all in one condensed book that's almost like that person's book, but put in a more simple format. And I wanted to write it to appeal to normies who don't know any of this stuff, to sort of, I guess, red pill them without them knowing that they're getting red pilled. However, that project has been put on hold for the time being, mainly because there's so much out there that it's almost, I almost feel like I could use my time to do other things.
And also, too, it's kind of like a book that, I guess, it writes itself, because I was in a similar process myself. I wanted to write a book with Sam Raven called The Red Pilled Mindset, Volumes 1 and 2, The Red Pill Individual and The Red Pill and the World. But it's like all of everything that happens, it's happening too fast to document. And even when you do document it, there's, like you said, there's just too many sources out there. Too many.
Well, I'm definitely not going to discourage you from doing what you're doing, because what you're doing sounds a little bit different than what I was planning on doing. So with what I was going to do, there's just too much out there. The normies have perfect access to it. Although marketing wise, I was going to give it a title that would have like drawn them in, you know. But, you know, it's not completely off the table, but I just feel like doing other things like live streaming and shilling my my t-shirts, my infamous rifle design t-shirts like the one in the background here.
Definitely check out his check out his
merch store. There
check out his
be
store.
Hats and stuff like that. Now that I'm done being a power shill, let's talk about tell you what, let's take some questions and then we'll finish off with my other idea. So if you guys have any questions in the audience here for Menace, when this catches up, start asking them. And if I miss your question, I apologize. I don't, you know, I even messaged one guy on Twitter because I missed a question he'd asked me on the stream. So I just don't, it's not my policy to ignore people unless they're a shitbag, and I don't think anybody who's going to be here is a shitbag. So let's see if we get any questions in here.
Yeah, ask away, guys. I'm an open book. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I know some people in the audience know you very, very well, so we'll see what happens.
Sonny Co.
Yeah, Sonny is one of my favorite people.
He's one of my favorites.
He is a funny dude. I've known him for years.
What is my purpose? You seem to have a lot on your plate, and you've obtained focus on an objective like we discussed. I think my purpose was always there. It's just the branding process was not as refined bullets. I guess originally I wanted to help myself. That's why I made the Menace channel. Then later I realized that I wasn't able to do that back then. So then I just kind of talked about news topics with Jaguar Media. Like it evolved into Jaguar Media. And then I made the Menace channel again to kind of finish off with one last hurrah in the manosphere. and to get at least most of my story out there, even if it's not all of it, most of my story. And I think I have accomplished that with the Black-Pilled Menace version. And now I think I'm better off with archiving. I'm good at archiving. And then I want to move on to build my school, because I've always wanted to make a school. And the question is, what kind of school? I'll figure that one out as I go along. Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm down for that.
I'll make a statement too. Your interview series was really, really good, man. You were a very good interviewer. I would
on Jaguar Media.
Right. I would wish that you would continue that, but
I want to. I want to.
Okay, good.
I will plan, or I was planning on using those interviews and getting excerpts from what people say about their experiences and put that in the book as part of volume 1, the Red Pill Mindset.
All right, PBG has a good question for you here. Says, how do you feel about Evo psychology regarding men and women? Why is something about, I don't understand the context.
Disregarded so much.
Okay, that may be what they're asking. Why is it disregarded so much in mainstream culture? Because, well, I'll let you answer, and I'll.
I have a theory on that. Evolutionary psychology is not based on Marxist philosophy or Marxist psychology. And it's the Marxist narrative that the mainstream media tries to push. I also believe that there's a hidden corporate agenda, especially with promoting LGBTQ, which is, when you dig deeper, is connected to the Bayer Corporation. And when LGBTQ started becoming popular, which was marketed by Disney, Disney bought out National Geographic, and National Geographic magazine was trying to make LGBTQ popular. Bayer Corporation also bought out Monsanto, and Bayer sells the hormones for LGBTQ transitions. And I think they ignore like gender evolutionary psychology to promote the Marxist narrative, which is corporate as well.
It's an interesting viewpoint, and now I'll give my version, which is a lot more simple. Yeah. Because Evo Psych reveals things about, particularly about women, but also relationships, that's not very flattering. They try to go with the classic definition of hypergamy, which is just a woman marrying up, right? But the manosphere version of hypergamy is a lot more in-depth. It has to do, and it's all scientifically backed, even down to women's menstrual cycles and how that affects. I mean, this is stuff, like I have a friend who, I have friends who've had children, and the doctor tells them the same stuff because they were trying to get pregnant. And the doctor tells them the same stuff, but when the manosphere says this stuff about the woman's cycle and how it determines whether she's more attracted to, alpha men and certain facial structures, and then other parts of her cycle, she's more into comfort. The manosphere people are considered like bad. Evo Psych is wrong, and it's garbage. But when you're sitting in front of your doctor and they say the same shit, it's right, that doesn't make any sense. So it's all about protecting the fifis of our women.
I guess it's a topic I need to research deeper into myself.
Oh yeah, Evo Psych is scientifically based. There's a basis for it.
Yeah, I need to research it more. I'm not as well informed on that particular subject, PBG. But I would say in terms of evolutionary psych today and the whole gender spectrum marketing thing, I would say that there is a corporate interest behind trying to revise it today. That's just my hunch. It's more of a hunch.
Okay. Any last minute questions? We're heading towards the hour mark. We're not too far from it.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys, in the chat? It's all right.
Not as many because this is a reshoot. If this was the original, we'd have more.
I think there'll be more.
Not bad.
PPG has another question. That's another good topic for a stream, Bullets. Another good topic.
Yep. We'll be. I'm going to do some housekeeping too.
Yeah.
I do have some streams I have planned in the future, and I'm going to be recruiting a panel for some of these. They have to fit certain criteria depending on the topic. So the two topics I have at the top of my head is the bitterness of the red pill and how to get over that. I think that's an important one to talk about. And another one is absorbing the red pill, because there's a lot of people out there that can regurgitate red pill knowledge, but when it comes to living the red pill lifestyle or changing your life instead of doing the same old that you always did, a lot of people still live in a very blue pill way, but they can tell you about hypergamy, but when it actually comes to like dealing with women or what have you, they just revert right back to their old blue pill ways. And so I want to have a discussion about both of those concepts. All right, there is one more question.
What do you think about removing gender as much as possible to get the overall red pill message out? I think even if gender were removed from it, it would still be silenced and censored, because governments and powers that be on top do not like the truth being exposed. And you only have to look as far as, I think, Article 11 or Article 12 when they tried to ban memes in the EU. That's just one example of how red pill messages would be censored overall.
Well, I will say this, PBG as well, is that I'm watching in real time more of an awakening. Normies are starting to, like, it's been said on other streams before, but the word simp has become a commonly used word in even normie circles now, which I think is great. So it's sort of like a shadow awakening, you know. They don't know they're being awakened, but they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, I'm going to send you Menace. I'm going to send you a video. I think you need to, or a couple of videos. I think I'd like you to watch.
Sure.
Might be good for you. And we'll do that. We'll do that later. But now that we're heading towards the hour mark, where can we find you? Like, and include everything, man. Don't.
Everything.
I know you're not making, or you said you're getting away from Menace for your content, but feel free to throw everything you got out there that you're working on.
For sure. So I have deleted, because I used to run like 4 channels. I've deleted 2 lately, and I'm trying to streamline them together, largely also thanks to the advice of Lycan Theory. Jaguar Media, it's like a black avatar. That's my news channel. I have this one, Menace Thinks. This is just like a commentary, generic commentary, reflection, unscripted, semi-scripted kind of channel. So Jaguar Media, Menace Thinks, And then I have a third channel called English Teachers Squad. And if anyone hopes to teach English as a language to foreigners, that's the channel I hope to build up over time.
And guess what that is?
My profession.
That's mentorship.
Yeah. Teaching teachers and
perfect.
teaching students.
Excellent, excellent. So anything else you want to put out there before we go?
None that I can think of. Those are just my platforms, and all I can say is, I guess with my closing, work on your body, your mind, and your soul. Your body, mind, and your spirit.
All right. With that being said, if you guys want to come on the show, do a stream with me, interview, I'm easy to find. You can message me on here. You can message me on Discord. Feel free to do it if you have an interesting perspective, something not everybody talks about. And we'll see what happens. Also, if you're interested in coming on the panel for the things I'd mentioned previously, like for instance, I'm looking for particularly people who have absorbed the red pill. I can't have guys that are, still doing the same old blue pill stuff but have red pill knowledge. That wouldn't be good. I want people, because it's mentorship. It's going to be advice to help people. And if you have the problem that we're talking about, I don't think it's going to be that effective. Anyhow, hit me up, and thank you all for being here. Thanks for coming on, Menace, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.